Our conversation started with President Trump's real-time tweet about Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch. Why do you think he was tweeting about her?
Well, he made a mistake, and he knows her strength, and he was trying to undermine it. Of course, presidents appoint ambassadors, but people don't insult people, especially when they're giving testimony before the Congress of the United States. I think even his most ardent supporters have to honestly admit this was the wrong thing for the president to do.
The White House said it was just his opinion. He wasn't trying to intimidate. What do you think?
But the president and perhaps some at the White House have to know that the words of the president weigh a ton. They are very significant, and he should not frivolously throw out insults. But that's what he does. I think part of it is his own insecurity as an imposter. I think he knows full well that he's in that office way over his head, and so he has to diminish everyone else.
Do you think that was witness intimidation in your book?
I haven't had a lot of time to pay attention to the president's tweets and the legal implications of them. I just think it was totally wrong and inappropriate and typical of the president.
When you tweeted today, you said Ambassador Yovanovitch was viciously smeared by Trump allies, removed from her post, and then threatened by the president. What part of that amounts to an impeachable offense or a crime?
Well, there are many things that the president does that are completely out of the question that are not impeachable, and they're about the election. But when it comes to violating the Constitution of the United States, as he undermines our national security, jeopardizes the integrity of our elections, dishonors his own oath of office, that's about impeachment.
So the Constitution defines an impeachable offense as treason, bribery, or high crimes and misdemeanors.
Yes.
What do you think applies to this case?
We are unfolding the facts. That's what an inquiry is about.
You used the term bribery.
And yeah, I was translating from the Latin. That was in the context of e pluribus unum, for many one, and so I said for many one, quid pro quo, bribery. Yeah, that's what that is. Mm-hmm.
So, but do you expect that to be one of the articles?
I have no idea. But there's not even a decision made to impeach the president. Mm-hmm. This is a finding of fact, unfolding of the truth, and then a decision will be made. And that is a decision that goes beyond me.
But you point out factually, right, that vote has not taken place to proceed necessarily with impeachment. But do you think you'll go through all of this and not vote to impeach the president?
That remains with the facts that the president has information that demonstrates his innocence in all of this, which we haven't seen. His transcript of a phone call is tucked away in a highly sensitive, compartmentalized intelligence server, so we can't see that. If he has information that is exculpatory, that means X, taking away blame, then we look forward to seeing it.
You think Democrats have had a good week?
Well, I think the American people have had a good week. I think truth has had a good week. I think patriotism has had a good week. And I think the Constitution has got a good week. I don't think the president has had a good week.
Well, Republicans argue here.
You know what? If we could just talk about what we want to do. I really have a real discomfort level of responding to what Republicans say because they are in denial about what has happened in the country. So if you want to ask me about where we're going on this, mm-hmm. I'm happy to respond to that. But I find it a waste of my time and yours to just be talking about what Republicans say.
Well, I want to just let you respond, though, to the argument that's being made in messaging by Republicans here, that the grounds for the impeachment...
Let it stand. Let their argument stand, because it's on such quicksand that I don't even want to have it given any more visibility by my dignifying any of their misrepresentations of what they say. And I say that out of great respect for you, because I respect you as a great journalist, and I'm honored to have this interview with you. But I say to everybody else, I'm not here to talk about what they say, because they're not facing the reality of what is happening to our country. And this is about our democracy that is at risk with this president in the White House.
So Chairman Schiff has said he learned of the whistleblower complaint September 9th. The aid was released days later, the military aid that's in question here. Do you see a connection there?
Of course, the president wasn't going to. The Republicans like to say, if you want to talk about them, oh, it doesn't matter, the aid was released. No, the whistle was blown. The whistle was blown, and that was blown long before we heard about it. Don't forget that in between all of that came the Inspector General, an Inspector General appointed by President Trump. And the Inspector General said that this was of urgent concern.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is what intervened.
Can you help walk the American people through what happens next? We have another week of hearings.
Yes.
There'll be an intelligence report written up.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? Does the president get, as he says, to confront his accuser or get due
What do you mean
process?
confront his accuser? Confront the whistleblower?
Presumably,
Well,
that's what
I
it
will
means.
make sure he does not intimidate the whistleblower. So the president could come right before the committee and speak all the truth that he wants if he
You
wants
don't
to.
expect him
If
to
he
do
wants
that.
to take the oath of office, or he could do it in writing. He has every opportunity to present his case. But it's really a sad thing. I mean, what the president did was so much worse than even what Richard Nixon did. But at some point, Richard Nixon cared about the country enough to recognize that this could not continue. The Intelligence Committee is leading this part of the inquiry. There are other depositions that are being taken by more committees. So some of the depositions will continue, and then what takes place in the intelligence public will continue for another week. I don't know how much longer. I guess it depends on how many more witnesses they have. That's up to the committee. I don't guide that. That's up to the committee.
Do you expect that to be wrapped up before the end of the year?
I have no idea. Again, I don't have any.
No timetable for that.
No, I mean, it is self-evident that we have open hearings for the next week. I don't know if there are any beyond that. Then we're out for Thanksgiving. Doesn't mean depositions couldn't be taken during that time. And then when we come back, by then maybe a decision, or maybe they have more hearings. And then I have 6 committees who have been working on all of this, and those 6 chairmen have been very involved in how we will proceed.
Does that mean that'll be potentially included in an impeachment, that you might broaden this beyond the issue related to Ukraine?
Well, that's not up to me. That's what the facts will determine. We're also proceeding in the courts. And this week we had another powerful decision by a court. Now the president is appealing it to the Supreme Court that the president should release his financial documents. We've won all of the cases in the court on this. Roger Stone, 7 counts was it that he was found guilty? Manafort is in prison. Michael Cohen, the president's lawyer, is in prison. There's so much wrongdoing attached with all of this. But we have to keep it very precise in terms of the President of the United States and the Constitution of the United States. And that is what this is about. And it's very serious. And none of us came here to impeach a president. This is very sad. At the same time, as I say, we're trying to pass a trade bill, pass our appropriations bills, Voting Rights Act, whether it's background checks, climate action now, equal pay for equal work, raising the minimum wage, all of the issues that we're working on for the good of the American people. So this isn't, while this is a concentration of our conversation here, it's not what we do in a day.
You met with the Treasury Secretary this week, and he said the White House has no intention of allowing another government shutdown.
Agreed. We're all in
Are you
agreement
confident
on
you can
that.
avoid one?
Well, let us hope, but left to their own devices, the appropriators can avoid that.
Does that mean Democrats will provide funding for the border wall?
No. No, we have well over $1 trillion worth of decisions to make. I don't know why we would go to that. The president hasn't built any new wall in the whole term of office. I think that his comments about the wall are really an applause line at a rally, but they're not anything that he's serious about.
When will the free trade deal, known as USMCA, be up for a vote?
When we have assurances that worker protections are provided. It's all about enforcement.
You said imminent recently. Does
Yeah,
that
well,
mean-
imminent, well, we're a long way from where we started. But I don't have a date when it'll come up because it cannot be any sooner than the trade representative agrees to the proper enforcement so that our workers really do get a better deal than they have in NAFTA.
What is it like for you to go toe-to-toe with President Trump?
Sad, as I say, none of us come here to impeach a president. And when a new president is elected, we wish that president success and hope that we can work together and find common ground. And I thought maybe we could on infrastructure, and I'm still hopeful. I thought we could on reducing the cost of prescription drugs, and I'm still hopeful. I had hoped that he would want it to be able to find some common ground. It is not a president who believes in governance. I've worked with President Bush before, and we did many things, passed the biggest energy bill in the history of the country, PEPFAR, HIV/AIDS, drugs, issues that related to fairness in terms of the tax code for poor people, and we did many things together.
Do you think it's different now, though, because you are so often the only woman in this room? I mean, that iconic photo of you after that recent clash at the White House with you standing up.
I was largely the only woman in the room when President Bush was president as well, but President Bush believed in governance, so you could find common ground. But if you don't believe that, in governance, then there's hardly any way to negotiate a solution. This is a very strange situation. 24th of September was when I called for a fuller expansion. The inquiry was going on, but to proceed with the inquiry, and that kind of changed our communication until that day in the room when I said, all roads, Mr. President, with you lead to Putin. Whether it's giving them a stronger foothold in the Middle East by what you did with Turkey and Syria, or what you did by withholding withholding aid to military assistance voted by Congress to Ukraine to the benefit of Putin. 11,000, more like 13,000 by now, Ukrainians have died at the hands of the Russians. They needed that military aid. And with his disparaging remarks about NATO and questioning our commitment to NATO, that's to Putin's advantage. So we do have, shall we say, a candid relationship.
Madam Speaker, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
Our full
There you go. That's going to end her remarks for the end of the Nanny Nanny Boo Boo trials in regard to trying to do an inquiry on possibly impeaching the President of the United States of America, which is Donald J. Trump at this particular point in time. Whenever you have such of a conflict of interest, you have ethnic barriers that are automatically being thrown up to the point that the Speaker of the House naturally is not going to be able to correspond professionally and properly with the President of the United States because of all these questionable issues that now the American people is finding out in regard to what Donald J. Trump actually done or did not do that he should have done, that now they're transpiring the truth in. It's once more sad whenever you take a group of people that is supposed to be hired towards doing a certain particular task, and now they are being deviated from their duties towards having to do something else other than their task that they was hired to do. You know, no one goes into that particular office here in the United States with the intentions, oh, well, we're going to have all these different meetings and all these different hearings and all these different testimonies of all these different people, because we're going to try to oust the President of the United States because we don't like his first name, or we don't like where he come from, or we don't like his ethnics, or we don't like how he presents his policies. We don't like him as an individual because of his style, because of his race, because of his color, because of his religion. No, no, no. These are none of the above. When these people go to work for the American people, they're supposed to be going to work as a body, as a whole, as a unit. But whenever something is occurring that is causing a ripple in the pond, per se, or upsetting the apple cart, then, and only then, is whenever unethical practices start having to be exerted into their particular practices, because they realize now that something is occurring within the body that is causing that ripple effect or upsetting that apple cart. And that's whenever you have emergency sessions, emergency meetings, emergency hearings that could very well possibly lead into the impeachment of the President of the United States. This is all something that not only the Americans need to pay close attention to, but all other formal judiciary democracies throughout the world, throughout the planet, can see how we run things and do things according to the demand. Not according to necessarily what we should be doing, but according to what we have to be doing. There's a difference. That's the reason why they put this in the category of a crisis or an emergency. Good luck to all of us pertaining to these extraordinary, unprecedented historical events that are now occurring in the regards of Mr. Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States.
Conversation with Speaker Pelosi will be on our website, facethenation.com, and an additional segment will be airing later today on our digital network, CBSN. When we come back, Republican Jim Jordan. He's leading the charge defending the president in the impeachment hearings. Stay with us.
This will end this Sunday. The middle of November 2019 year. This will end this particular YouTube platform session that the Windmill Ministries is putting out to the general public. Thanks again, and shalom.